I've realized over time, like building relationships with business owners, maybe at the cost of me not making as much money, but to build a relationship with the people around me is so much more meaningful. And like money it comes and goes. I'm a broke college student, so I need it. But like, it's also something that's like anyone, you can lose it tomorrow.
We're good? You all ready? You good? Ready? Good. All right, ready? All right.
What's good, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Conversation Piece, your place to discover the untold stories right here in Indianapolis. My name is Patrick Armstrong. I am your host, and I am excited to be back for another episode in 2025, the year of community. Lots of stuff happening right now. It is May. We just had a really incredible AANHPI market here at the Stutz. I just want to shout out Pattern really quickly, who helped us find the space to record in, but also has helped us host a couple of events here, and it's been really awesome. Great way to build community. We got some cool content coming out of that, so make sure you check that out. Speaking of cool content, though, my guest today is a Gen Z digital native, artist, creator, and filmmaker whose work remains unapologetically them all the way through. When they aren't at home ideating and post-producing, you can find them out in the community highlighting various aspects of the city and crafting really fun, engaging content that, like our former guest, Precious Jewel, said, makes you get out of your house. They are also not new to the show, having come through 2 months ago for the open door. I knew at that time that we needed to have a much longer conversation. So without further ado, it is my great joy and privilege to welcome back Doan to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you coming back. Did you have a good enough time that you're like, yeah, I have to come back to?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Had to go back.
So you've been through this a little bit, this truncated version of the show, but because of that, I want to start in a really difficult place, at least for me. What is a Gen Z digital native?
It means that I don't know what a landline is. No.
Okay.
I think always grew up around like technology and like phones and things, I think.
Okay.
So it's a very interesting perspective to be like all the information and everything is at your fingertips. But I think that also it's like a curse, but it's also a blessing because you can learn everything and you also like almost know too much.
Sure. Bursed out of the digital world that we live in currently.
Yeah,
okay,
for sure.
I get it. I saw that on, I think, your website maybe, or your YouTube, and I was like, I don't know what a digital native is, so I have to ask about it.
Yeah, maybe someone else wrote that or something.
Oh, okay, maybe. Yeah, that might be. Actually, yeah, it might be from an interview now that I'm thinking about it that you did on Canvas Rebel. Yeah. So I think that's where it came from, but I do think that you wrote that. Or it came from your answer. Okay, so we didn't get into a lot of like your creative like origins, so I kind of wanted to get into that. You've been creating your whole life, I think, like been in some form or fashion.
Yeah, I have. I was a very creative kid. Like even through like elementary and middle school, I liked to make videos for like class presentations and stuff. And they were awful. They were really bad. But I think my teachers saw that I loved to do it, and so they'd always like play my videos in front of the class, and then the class would laugh and then they'd be like, make more.
For sure.
So on YouTube, it was kind of weird. I started making like Alvin and the Chipmunks like music covers. Okay. It was weird. I was like 11 playing with an iPad. That's probably what it means to be a digital native.
That makes sense.
And so I was just posting like whatever I put together on iMovie. It was really bad.
Okay.
And then I just like, I think that did like kind of plant the roots for it though, because I've consistently like posted on Instagram. I started posting like my little drawings and fan arts. And one of the drawings got noticed by like a YouTuber I really liked. And that was like the first time I was like, oh my goodness, the stuff I make gets perceived. So I was posting art on Instagram for like a long time, like throughout school. And then I started taking it more seriously maybe like 2 years ago in college, where I was losing time to make art. And so I was always going out to eat with friends and stuff. and I love like taking photos and food and things.
Yeah.
So I would post those videos, and then like local businesses would notice, and then a little by little it started growing. But it really got me like an interest in like video and film, and then I just kept making stuff and then learning and then asking people around. Like I honestly don't think that, and maybe it's the imposter syndrome or something, but I think it's really just a dedication to like consistency.
Yeah.
And like I just love making, and I keep making and learning.
Yeah.
And that's what gets me really excited.
I love it. Yeah. I think the ability to be consistent is it can be difficult to achieve sometimes, especially when we don't know what we want to do, and to do that thing kind of over and over again to build that skill. It can take a lot when we're still trying to we're trying a bunch of different things. Is that like that dedication to being consistent or to like pursuing it in that way? Does that come from somewhere else? Like, are your parents like people who like focus in on something and work hard at that thing? Or where does that come from, do you think? Like that drive to be consistent, I suppose.
I think part of that drive, and this is going to be me opening up a little bit.
For sure.
Is that when I was 16, I left my mother's house, but I will be very open and say that when things were good, she was a wonderful mother. She just went through a hard time in life, and so I had to leave. But she was a very strong person, and I really love her. But part of that is like, I have to be able to make decisions on my own, and I have to fight for the things that I believe in. And I'm the oldest of like my little siblings. And so I have to, it's part of my like self-motivation is like, I have to show them that anything they want to do in this life is possible. And I'm going to do it and fail first so that they don't get scared to fail. Because I think the reason like a lot of people don't start posting or don't start sharing their art, or they have these amazing, incredible talents, but they don't share it with anybody because they're scared of like failing. And I don't think I'm as scared to fail, because like I firmly believe you're never ready for anything you want to do.
Sure.
Right? Like you just go in with what you have, use the resources around you, and then you keep pushing to get better. Ask questions. Like I don't care who laughs at me because I don't know something or I was bad at it. Like I just keep learning. Yeah,
for sure. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us. And I think like we talk a lot about modeling on the show, and for a lot of people like they either didn't have models, or maybe they did, but it was one of these kind of one-off situations where they like circumstance just happened to put you in the proximity of somebody who can model for you what it looked like to live outside of a defined like thing, whether it be career, whether it be lifestyle, whatever it might be. It takes kind of somebody living it and doing it to show us like, oh, okay, we can do that. And so like even like this willingness to try and fail, we need to be like, especially as older siblings, you have to model that for your younger sibling. I always feel pangs of regret because I don't feel like I was a very good model for my younger sister. And I think it's really interesting now looking at our relationship. She does a lot of modeling for me. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I need to be doing that because I see Rebecca over here doing it. So it's interesting kind of how those relationships play out. You talked about having to leave at 16. One of the things when you mentioned like consistency and like this drive and wanting to be consistent and continue to pursue like an achievement, I suppose. I know you got an associate's 17 and you had a bachelor's by like, so you were about to have your bachelor's at 19. I think that's absolutely incredible. First off, congratulations. Second off, I feel like it's, especially since you just, opened up and were vulnerable kind of about how like our personal situations can drive us to try and achieve. I wondered if you could share a little bit about how pursuit of like educational goals intersected and intertwines with your pursuit of creative and artistic goals.
Yeah, I love this question. Academically, like, I think my parents really outran some of the like more negative stereotypes or like stereotypes people have, where I think they didn't really, I love like how they had a very realistic expectation on like academics. They always said like, if you get a C, you get a C, but that's the best that you did that day.
Sure.
Then I'm happy with you.
I like that.
For me, like I pushed myself a lot. So maybe it wasn't my parents, but I definitely pushed myself. And maybe part of that was because I knew I needed to get out of a bad home situation. And so
Sure.
I was like, I can either sit here and let this situation eat me up, or I can try to graduate early. Maybe that was me trying to get out of that house. Sure. And I can pick up the pieces and get myself somewhere better, and I can build a life for myself. Like, I don't have to accept this for me. So I pushed myself in that way, and I used to be very like strict on academics and things like that. Like, oh, I have to be part of every team. I have to run for like student president. And maybe in a way I'm still like that. But the more I just like go through life, and like maybe you've experienced this too, like because I heard you talk about it before. But when you get awards or you get invited to events and things, it's obviously like a very wonderful thing, and I'm very grateful for it. But at the same time, it's not as important to me as like the connections you make with people. Sure. Or like actually creating and things like that. Like you get the award and then you bring it home and you put it somewhere and it kind of gets forgotten. Yeah. Not to say I'm not grateful. For sure. But it's just a thing. And then like when we're not here anymore, these things don't come with us, but like our memories do. Yeah. And the way that I use art and like performance, it's just such a like in the moment experience that no award can really do for me. And so that's why like in every creative field, like I love making art, I love performing, I love doing all of these things. And I'm gonna pull through strong. I'm gonna graduate and I'm gonna do well. But it's not the most important thing. Like if I get a B or something here and there, if I fail a test, it's like you failed the test. It feels sad in the moment, but like your rest of your life is still there. You have, there's so much like ahead of you. Yeah. It's a blip or a moment. It's not every moment. My perspective's changed so much because of the people I've met. For sure. Yeah. I totally agree about like awards and banquets and stuff. I 100% think we should be celebrating and highlighting people doing great work. And I love that we can get dressed up, get in our cool fits, have great food, and commingle and be in community with a bunch of people that maybe we don't get to be in community with. And especially over the last 4 years, the ones that I have been to, my perspective has been, one, I don't really necessarily feel worthy to be in those spaces to begin with, but two, it seems to be a level of like, that for like what we're talking about and awarding is like quote unquote community stuff for certain events that I've been at. But then when we're looking at the audience who is there at this really extravagant gala, like it's not reflective, I don't think, of the people that we are supposed to be helping. And so I understand that a lot of people in those rooms are the ones probably or maybe involved in certain work that helps the community folks. And I feel like when we're sinking thousands, tens of thousands of dollars into a single event to highlight those folks, like, is there something that we can also be doing to incorporate the community at a larger capacity, you know? And yeah, I just feel like there's a little dissonance between that. Not that I don't want to go and do that, and not that I'm not grateful, or understand the privilege that it is to be nominated in that way. And like I don't do it for the award. I don't do it to put the thing on the shelf. You know, I'm doing it because I like the genuine connection, and also like the people that I've connected with and the people that are in my community. There are places and situations that are currently oppressing them, keeping them back, that are not supported or helped by these types of events. So like, it's about figuring out how to live in the multiplicity of it and realize that things can exist in the same space at the same time. Yeah. You know? And I think a lot of people have trouble with that. I think so too. And I think a quote that I heard recently that I'm really going to stand by is someone told me like, confidence is not going into the situation knowing that you're going to win something. It's that you're going to know that even if you don't win it, you're still proud of yourself, or you're still confident in yourself. Yeah. You know that you're going to be fine without these achievements and accolades. For sure. Well, the thing is, like, who are we really competing with at the end of the day? Is it really everybody else out here, or is it with
the person that you are here.
Yeah.
You know, the person inside. And that's something I struggled with for a long time. Was like, I was not only keeping myself internally from competing, but it's always been in either service of or in comparison to everybody else. And it took until I was 30 and then 32 really to start embracing me and who I am, which has allowed me to now be able to sit down and do stuff like this, you know, as a creative, I suppose, to pursue that. One of the things that I saw, it might have been in the same interview, was the Cal Arts sketchbook tours you talked about, and those being a big influence or wanting to be a part of those things. I was wondering if you could share a little bit more. I was trying to like look up and understand a little bit about what that was, but I was hoping you could share a little bit about those things specifically and like the impact it had on your specific passion for sketching, I suppose, but art and creative expression in general.
Yeah. For the record, like no matter how much life changes, I'm still a weird art kid at heart. Like that weird art kid with like dumb jokes is like still very deep inside me. And the weird art kids know that like 2010s kind of period, maybe when I was in middle school, Cal Arts, which is like a big animation program, big art school, a lot of people would apply with a sketchbook.
Okay.
Like you had to submit a whole sketchbook portfolio.
Gotcha.
And then accepted sketchbooks people would post on YouTube to kind of help future classes. And the kind of things I saw, especially like from Asian creators like Michelle Lam, where she kind of shows her shame of being Asian growing up and then like different parts of culture in her sketchbook, and then just seeing other people's like creative concepts and things. I never made a sketchbook to submit, but I did get accepted into a few UC schools and to San Jose State's animation program, which is I think they have limited seats at the time. And so I almost became like a California art student, or not Cal Arts, but like art school in California, right? Very different life to what I had now. And then the situation with my mom came up because I was 16 when I graduated high school. And I tried to communicate with her on things. And I could just tell that she's just going, it's just life. Like life happened to her.
Yeah.
But like I said, she's incredible. And so I had to step out and do the right thing for myself and be like, I can't take this. So at the time, it was like late August. All the schools in Indiana were closing doors for admission. I didn't know a thing about Indiana universities. I put all my eggs in California. I was like, I'm going to go to a California school.
Okay.
So that kind of put me in a bad situation.
Sure.
So I did some like last minute panic Googling. It was a very sad time because I grew up thinking that I was going to be one of those Cal Arts like students.
Yeah.
And so this was just like a whole thing. I cried for a little bit. You cry, you pick yourself up.
Yeah.
And I found on Ivy Tech, there was like an accelerated associates program. And I went in person like the day before my birthday. So maybe like the day before I turned 16.
Yeah.
Or 17 maybe. Yeah, the day before I turned 17. And I talked to the program director and he was like, how old are you? And I was like, I turned 17 tomorrow. And he goes, okay, well, there's one more seat left in the program. So thank you, John.
Shout out, John.
Yeah, shout out to John. He was an incredible program director too. And I got my associates in 11 months. It was so stressful. It was like 8-week semesters, 4 classes. So I was at school from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day of the week. And then we had weekend programming because it was a special program.
Yeah.
So we had stuff that our class did together on weekends. And, you know, no matter how hard things get and no matter how much like my friends and people close to me know that like I always threaten to drop out like at every little inconvenience. I hit that like 11:30 mark before the 11:59. I'm like, I'm going to drop out.
Sure.
I'm going to give up on school. I don't. I always pull through and I always finish what I started. And I think that's where I'm very proud of myself for.
As a college dropout, I am proud of you for it. And because you do what I was unable to do. And again, it took me a long time to get to that point of following through, but I appreciate you sharing because it's easy to give up on stuff, you know, and it's easy to move on to another thing, especially right now. It's like there's so many quote unquote opportunities that you could maybe pursue, but it's like you can never not pick up a new hobby, but can you commit yourself to the thing that you're doing now? And not the school or education or anything as a hobby, but like anything that you involve yourself in that you feel like you want to do. Can you follow through on that? Oh shoot, why did I look at that? Because that's not the question I wanted to ask. Talk about, okay. So like you said, you got to 11:30 and you were like, okay, I'm ready to drop out. Like, I'm ready to do this. Still stayed. What were some of the things keeping you, that tethered you back? Like you said, you always were going to follow through, but I think at the end of the day, there's still probably some things that would push you in that direction of like, okay, I'm going to leave and do something else. And there's got to be things there that keep you tethered a little bit and that can reel you back in when you reach, quote unquote, a breaking point. What were those things for you? What helped keep you in it, especially going through a really rigorous associate's program like you just did?
The people I love, especially, and they're probably not even at the age where they're conscious enough to understand what Ji-Hang, like their older sibling, is saying, but my baby siblings.
For sure.
One of them's 13, maybe she'll understand. But during that last year, like before I left home, I was helping my mom take care of my baby brother that had just been born, and like his dad wasn't around. And so I was trying to finish up high school, and I'd have him in my arm, like one arm trying to feed him food and he's not eating. And then the other arm, I'm doing my homework. And then I'm also listening to a lecture, and like there's so much going on. And I would get very like frustrated and overwhelmed sometimes, but at the same time, like when I'm sure you know this because of your kid, but like when a baby smiles at you, like there's something like very instinctual, like I gotta do it. Like I gotta get through this.
Yeah.
And so like when I left, that was one of the souls I had to say bye to him.
Yeah.
And I love him a lot. And for my other siblings too, I love them so much. And that love for them, like the older sibling is always like the first to do things, I think, or the first to take the front of things. And I will do it for them. And then I think another thing that helped me was the other like classmates in my cohort, because we were going through it together.
Yeah.
Tough program, but we did it together. Good job, ASAP 2023 class. And also my partner, because my partner was one of the first few people I came out to. We've been together since like high school. And they got me my first tie.
Okay.
Which I have today.
Hey.
And they said like, no matter like male or female or whatever you are that day, like I love your soul. And that's what they said to me. And that was very meaningful to me. And they stand up for me when I'm not around. And my friends stand up for me when I'm not around. And I do the same for them. So it's those people that keep you grounded. You need to have people that keep you grounded if you want to do difficult things.
For sure. 100%. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. And again, I mentioned modeling before. I think I just want to affirm you and everything that you're doing, even though like maybe not everyone would be like, hey, make sure you get your associates in 11 months and like do a lot of things at once and quickly. And I think it's really inspirational to see you go through that, not just for like any other specific like bystander just watching or spectator like myself, but knowing now about like your why and your siblings that you're wanting to, that's like one of the reasons that you do this work. I think it's just really powerful. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Because again, it's just making me think about my own life, which is why I like doing this show. Along with kind of what you had just talked about in that answer, I want to kind of tie something else in. You said with the Cal Arts sketchbook tours, it's like we first came into contact with Michelle Lam's work. You talked about her you're kind of dissecting the shame of being Asian in that work. And I think one of the things I like about what you do is your identity and the identities that you hold both do and do not play large roles in the work that you do. I wondered if you could share just a little bit about how you navigate the process of deciding what takes center stage and what doesn't, and like how you decide, okay, this is going to be part of the work that I'm doing, and you know what, this is for me, so we're gonna keep this over here.
Yeah, it's the very classic like growing up Asian in a white neighborhood story, but it's like the bringing Asian food to school was embarrassing. Wearing my aoyai to church felt embarrassing because people are looking at it asking like, what is that, Chinese dress? Like, no, I'm Vietnamese. Oh, I thought you were Asian. I'm like, I am Asian. So a lot of that brought like a lot of shame about identity and things. And that's very common for Asian kids. But as I get older, the power of digital native, where you grow up on social media and you see other creators that like wear their Asian clothing in public and wear their cultural clothing and share recipes, and then like Asian food became more popular and things like that. Like you're seeing culture like at the forefront of everything. It made me like kind of realize like I need to stop hiding this, and I need to stop apologizing. Like if white people are uncomfortable that I'm wearing my clothing out in public, then that's them. But you know, I always correct people on how they say my name. I correct people on like I am Vietnamese American, like I am Asian, and I will correct people. And I'm not gonna, when they ask like, can I call you something else? Like, I don't like your name. I'm just gonna give you a nickname. I'm just gonna call you this. I'm like, no, you're gonna call me by my name because my parents both came here and they had to learn a whole language. So you 100%. Can learn one word right now. Yeah. Right. And that's just how it is. It's like,
how exhausting is that? It's
tiring, but at the same time, it's like, it's not my job to do the learning for other people, but I'm going to stand on business. Like it's my culture and I want to represent. So everything I do has little pieces of my culture and identity in them. And I'm not ashamed of it anymore. Like every year, there's still parts of me that like I'm working out and learning, because I'm also like an adolescent in a body that's like scared and changing and adapting to the world. And my brain is still developing and everything's so scary right now. But one thing I know for sure is like, I'm not going to apologize for the parts of me that's there.
For sure. Well, that's what I was talking about before. One of the things I like is like you just, whether it's through clothing or jewelry or things that you don't have to speak about from a cultural perspective that still find their way into your work. Like that's where I'm like, I like that because it's like, I don't have to be out loud about it necessarily, but it is a part of my, like everything that I do. And you're going to experience it whether you want to or not. And I don't necessarily have to point it out specifically. And for folks that are Vietnamese or folks that come from Asian culture that find your work, they're like, oh, that's really cool. That's really interesting. And that instantly creates a connection, a deeper connection point for that audience member. And I think what you're doing, one of the things I love following is because I'm trying to build my YouTube audience for the podcast. So I love watching you as you've built yours. And I think what I love about your audience and what you're building on YouTube is that it feels really authentic. It's not, I've paid a bunch of things to get me a bunch of bot subscribers. It's like you're building an actual community there. And I think it's really rare nowadays for creators. Can you talk about like, you shared like the importance of people and community in your work. Can you talk about what it means to like foster that and channel that into building it around what you create and not just having come from it, but now I'm creating this for myself?
Yeah. When I create like my platform and my audience on YouTube and like the videos I share about like Indianapolis and art and things, like I do things that maybe other like big creators, I'm not a big creator right now. But
you a big creator?
I do things that big creators are like people, it's kind of counterintuitive to the advice they'd give. Like a lot of the common advice right now is like, do things that are controversial, do things that are catchy, big thumbnail. I got a weird feedback that was like, you need to take bigger bites of your food and drip syrup everywhere. So then people will think it's an eye-catching video. And all of these things, but that's not me. And like, if I don't like the food, there's a nice way I go about it. But like I say like, oh, it's not for me, but give it a try. And that's me being honest. Like, just try it. Like, I like weird stuff. Maybe you won't like the same things as me. But I'm not going to be like, this is the best food I've ever had. This is the best makeup I've ever used. And the best things. Even if that's the advice to grow big fast, to like exaggerate and things. It just doesn't sit right with me, and it's not fair to me or my audience either. And so I believe in very like slow, consistent growth. Like I think I'm very grateful for the platform I have, but I know it's a little small in comparison to like bigger platforms. But I'm okay with growing slow over time because that means that each person that joins and comes on to this community is somebody that's like truly wants to be here for me. And if you don't want to be here, that's you.
For sure.
If there's something like, I've decided to put everything I have on the table, like every part about me that like my queerness, my transness, like all the parts that make me odd or strange to other people, right? Like, I put that all on the table because if somebody doesn't like it, that just filters out people that I wouldn't want around me in the first place. Like, I don't want the type of energy where they're not accepting like me as a whole person. So I'm not going to create this social media image of myself if I can't keep it up.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah. Never not going to be you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
And if it takes me longer to get where I need to be, it takes me longer because followers and money sounds super cool. Like if somebody drops that for me right now, like I'm not gonna say no. Like that's so cool. But
you wouldn't reject a big sack of money right now.
Yeah, like I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm too humble for this big stack of cash. But it's also like I've realized over time, like building relationships with business owners, maybe at the cost of me not making as much money, but to build a relationship with the people around me is so much more meaningful. And like money it comes and goes. I'm a broke college student, so I need it. But like, it's also something that's like anyone, you can lose it tomorrow.
For sure.
You can lose your followers tomorrow.
For sure.
Instagram, we already saw TikTok got shut down. Like these things are not important. Like you can literally lose them right now.
100%.
But if my Instagram gets deleted or something, I still have like the friends I made from doing these videos and things like that. I like that. I want to keep that.
Yeah. Especially, Like you're just building community that can live beyond and acts beyond like these devices that we might operate on. And I think that's what carries somebody through, because if you're not developing a real relationship with the people that you're interacting with, then when shit hits the fan, like, who are you going to be able to call to rely upon to, come and support? And if you are able to, like, if you're willing to invest in those relationships, you're probably going to be a little bit better positioned when said shit hits said fan. How do you go about choosing the businesses that you want to work with and highlight? Is it, do you have a list, or is it just like, I looked up indie business in the categories that you cover and you're just like, all right, I'm going to work down this list?
It's definitely like building relationships with other Indianapolis creators too. So and then within that group, we kind of talk to each other about like who, who's
doing what?
Yeah, who's doing what, who comes from where, and things like. I have said no to certain brands that are like sponsored by causes that I'm really against, and things like that. So
Elon Musk said, "Hey, I want you to do a Tesla video."
No, I can't ever make Mr. Beast content. Like I can't do it. I've said no to things that will make me money.
Sure,
but it's money that I'm not okay with touching.
Yeah,
because it's important that we choose to be intentional with like the things we give our energy to, because your time here is so limited. And so like I kind of have a soft spot for businesses that remind me of like my parents. So like small immigrant owned parents that like don't know what to do with social media. They kind of have like they kind of hit my soft spot very easily. But I think like small and locally owned is where I always want to contribute to, and maybe like my career may grow and that might take me different places, but I always want to give it to the small and local community here, because like I said before, my dream was to go to California, and I was like, it's gonna be so fun, it's gonna be just like all the movies and stuff. And then I was like, Indiana, huh? But shout out to my partner, because they took me to all these little like special places like Fountain Square or like Broad Ripple or all these places that I didn't know about before. And they actually introduced me to like the first person that maybe believed in me in the city, Rebecca Robinson, artist with Indie Arts Council. And I don't know why she was willing to talk to this random 16-year-old, but she told me something. She was like, maybe 4 years from now, you'll have a studio just like mine. And she's like, that's way faster than like I did it. Sure. And I was like, really? Because she's a really good artist. I was like, I don't think so. But because she believed in me, I was able to do more. And then she kind of, she was like, okay, you don't hit the age requirement to be shown in the gallery, but I'll see what I can do. And so I was my work was exhibited in a gallery for the first time. And I was like meeting other artists in Indianapolis that wanted to do things and like how much ambition they had and how contagious it was. It's like, this is a big city without being a big city, if that makes sense. It's like a big city, but once you're here, you know people like it's a small town.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people want to, I think, invest in those relationships. You know, like I think most people aren't doing it for the one-off. There are a lot of people. Oh, okay. There are a lot of people that still do. For a lot of people, it's transactional because I don't know. They're just trying to make a buck. You know. But we talked about this as use of an aerial. Like if what you're doing is rooted in capitalism, it'll show. If what you're doing is rooted in community, that's going to show through. And I think again, like the work that you do and the way you approach the work, not just like the product, but how you go about it. So like you post about every time you're listening to the show and working and sketching on something or in class or whatever it is that you're doing. And I really appreciate that. That's part of what relationship building is, I think, is just how we interact and engage with other people's things that are in our orbits. And this honestly goes all the way back to when we first met. Like you reached out to me randomly, I think, on Instagram and wanted to grab coffee. And I was just like, all right, let's do it. And that has now led to kind of slow, intentional connections where we're now part of the same like AAPI group here in the city. And we go out for dinner sometimes, which I feel like I haven't been to in like the last 8 months. I don't know what's happening, but we're making it happen. Yeah, I say all of that just to be... You're good. You're good.
No, go ahead.
I say all of that just to say, like, again, the approach that I see from my outside perspective of how you come to the work is rooted in this idea of community. And I think it means a lot to people who end up finding themselves in your orbit. What is a business that you've discovered in your work so far that you were just like, I had no idea this would have been here. And I'm so glad that I came across you and can highlight you.
My lungs have been taken out by this weather. Okay, let me clear it out my system and let me think through that one.
You're good.
That gets edited out, right?
Mike will make a super cut of all of the coughing and it'll just be an outtakes blooper.
No! That's okay though. If it gets you the views, that's okay. Profit. There's a lot of businesses, I think. Let me think it through. There's so many.
Sure. Just one that's like stands out as like most unexpected.
Let me think this through. What's yours? Maybe if you answer.
Oh, what's my most unexpected business here?
Yeah.
Damn, that's a great question. Most unexpected business in Indianapolis. Now we're going to have a good multiple episodes this month with long pauses as we think through our questions and answers. Okay, well, I think, so this is going to seem like a fucking cop-out answer, but I will say gang gang. I think the existence of a gang gang here in Indianapolis feels very rare. Like Arts Council for sure. And like Arts Commission and other arts like focus things, yes, but like a Black-led arts organization that's more now like becoming like creative agency, I would say, to me feels very unexpected in Indianapolis. Maybe not now in the 2020s, but not something I would expect. So again, easy answer, but shout out to Gang Gang if you ever want to sponsor the show. Yeah, I think that's mine for right now.
Yeah, I think the business community that kind of surprised me the most was the Filipino food vendor community.
Oh, okay.
Because my first like video that kind of took off, at least like food related, was Ube Fest.
Okay, yeah.
The account just messaged me and was like, I like your videos. It was like the Spider-Man burger I was trying or something like that. Because I love Spider-Man.
I love Spider-Man
and
too.
I was like, I almost thought about taking that video down because I was like, this is stupid. Like everyone's already eaten the burger. Like why do I have to make a video? But I think they liked it. And so they were like, can you come record the festival? And then they introduced me to all the vendors like Solama, Olympia Creations, Taste of Manila. Those 3 were the first that I interviewed for like my food documentary for school.
Okay.
And I was so surprised they said yes to do it. Like everything along this path, like, why did you say yes to me?
Sure.
Like, I think about that all the time. But I tell like other creators, like, don't be scared to just ask.
Yeah.
Just ask.
Yeah.
The worst they can say is like no. And a lot of times if you're a student and you want to learn something, like businesses love helping students. I've noticed that.
Sure.
And I'm very grateful that they do. And so we made that little food documentary together. And that single video that I made that semester has helped me get so many more like opportunities and things. And that was just because I was like, I literally knew nothing like about video. I didn't even know how to turn on the camera properly. So it was just a lot of like asking so many questions in class to my professor and like to my classmates. And then I stayed in the editing lab at school like a long time every night. And anytime there was someone in there, I would be like, how do you use this? And then how do you use this? And like I learned DaVinci and all the editing stuff.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
He knows. I can tell. I can see him shaking his head yes, but I'm like, I don't know what that software is.
And that just comes from like, even if like all my videos, I started filming from my phone.
Okay.
And that like, you just use what you have on you and use 100%. The resources around you. Like you're never going to be quote ready. People think like, oh, I don't have camera equipment and I don't have this and that and blah, blah, blah. Like I'll tell you right now, like all my clothes are thrifted. All my stuff is secondhand. You use what you have around you and then you put the pieces together and you learn as you go. You're going to be missing stuff and then you'll learn for next time how to make it better.
Sure. I love that. As you look, so what I keep thinking about is like the accelerated time frame that you've been on, especially as you talk about, you started your creator journey a little like 2 years ago and you were on the phone, using the phone and stuff, but then you spent so much time in class and in this last couple of years learning and making sure that you like perfected, or maybe not perfected, but like became an expert on this craft. As you look back on this like journey of the last couple of years from like being like, okay, I'm going to do this to being like where you are now, what is the thing that you've surprised yourself the most with? Or have you surprised yourself at all? Are you like, this is exactly who I thought I was going to be and where I thought I might end up? No,
I'm very surprised that like I stayed consistent to these things.
Sure.
But at the same time, I knew that part of me was like inside me. My perception of time now, because of like the graduation, is that like every year, except for like my first year at IUPUI, was walking a stage for commencement. And so it like my perception of time is like things are moving so fast. So I think something that surprised me is like I learned that things take time. Everything takes patience. You need to have so much patience because if you try to do things too fast, you like crash out. You will crash out. Because like school was so condensed and everything was like so quick. So then to me, I almost expect things to come quick. And then I'm like checking on videos or something like, or like why like every creator goes through this where it's always like the video that you didn't put time into that you don't like that much is the one that like the audience decides like, yep, this one's going to go viral.
For sure.
Why? Why, guys? But it's understanding like patience is a very valuable thing. Just trust the process. Like when I draw something, like it like low-key looks kind of ugly and then it looks good and then it looks ugly. And that's the same with like making a video. That's the same with everything that you make. It's going to go through like an ugly phase.
Sure.
And then it'll start to come together. And just have patience with the process and then love the process. Because we talked about this like earlier in the conversation, but if you just take the awards and endings of everything.
Right.
It's nice, but you're not getting anything out of it. Yeah. But if you like learn to love everything that comes along with that, you get more out of life that way. And you get time to like breathe everything in and just enjoy the things that are simple. I noticed that like a lot of people, they chase things up until the point where they have everything nice that they could ever ask for. And they're still sad.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have gratitude for like the people around them. They didn't spend time with the people that mattered to them. They chased like all these big things, and they're definitely important, right? Like you need to make money to stay alive and survive, right? But don't forget there's very simple things that's very meaningful. I think that's what surprised me the most was like, I love simple things now more than I could love anything big.
For sure. I love that. I really appreciate you sharing that because I think that's something I feel like I talked about a lot in the back half of last year. I haven't talked about it as much now, but this idea of like being so focused on the result and not so much on how we get to the result. And I love this idea of like, you know, you got to love the process, fall in love with the process because it also gives you appreciation for like the hard things that you might have to go through. And especially when we're in it. Like, I think we do a lot of hindsight and we also do a lot of like thinking ahead. But like in the moment, especially when things are hard, it can be like we want to think ahead or think back on like whatever and do anything but be in this moment. And it's not that you have to love the hard thing, but can we find the appreciation of the slow moments? Can we slow down and understand like what's going on and all the other things that might be coming with it? Even if it's something we can't ever understand, can we slow down enough to be like, okay, I can see. And yeah, I still feel this type of way. I'm still having this emotional response, which is all still valid. And also move forward in like, in walking with and not necessarily like pushing away or compartmentalizing in a negative way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we talked a lot about community, talked a lot about the people who help prop us up, are wise, all of that. We have a recurring segment on the show called Give Them Their Flowers. Shout out to Madeline McKinnon and Frida's Flowers for sponsoring this segment. But it is a segment where we ask our guests to shout out a person or persons that they feel like deserve their flowers right now. You shouted a couple people earlier. And I wanted to see who you wanted to give your flowers to today.
Yeah, there's so many people that I could give my flowers to, like my partner, my friends, all the people in this local community that had faith in me when maybe I didn't. But I think one group that I think would be really important for the queer community, especially queer youth that maybe they've been abandoned or don't have that relationship with their family, family becomes really important to have then.
For sure.
So there's a group that's called like Free Mom Hugs, and they show up at like Pride events. And I think people really underestimate how much something like a hug or a small gesture when they didn't get that from their parents at an event like Pride where you're out, and maybe for some people that's their first time being out is at a Pride event.
Sure.
And so having a group like that, like those moms are so special because a lot of times there are parents that are like, oh, I support LGBT community, but if their kid comes out, they're not as supportive.
Right.
And that's a really interesting like cognitive dissonance that we have to call out.
Definitely.
Where they support the community, but they wouldn't support their kid. And when you have a kid, you understand that there's going to be challenges that come with that kid. That kid might be different from you, and all these things, and you love that kid for who they are. And so any parents that are giving those children their own children and other children like that unconditional love. Like I've found family and like parent figures in other people in this community. And so like, thank you to everybody, but especially like the Free Mom Hugs.
For sure. Shout out to everybody. Shout out to Free Mom Hugs. If you're at a Pride event, find them out and get a hug. I think that I love that because as an adoptee, like I've learned a lot about the nature aspect of motherhood and like what you lose when you're separated from your first or birth mother. And a lot of it has to do with that embrasure. And obviously that's like an infant level, but that develops so soon and so early, that bond. And when that is severed, like even when you have a foster or an adoptive parent fill that role, it's not the same. Because there's like an inherent biological component to it. We can nurture care between. And like there's something that gets lost when that severance happens. I think it just gets me super hyped when folks will be like, I want to pass this love on, that people might not have received as a kid. And I don't know. I just say all that because it's just thinking about how community can come together and formulate tangible ways of passing through love that aren't just like we're sitting and talking about it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I've got a few more questions for you before we get to the end and wrap it up here. One of the things I wanted to ask is like, touch a little bit more on our Asian identity or the Asian identity. And last time you were here, we talked a little bit about your trans and gender fluid identity. I was wondering, this episode's coming out in May. It's the 13th right now, if you're watching it on release day.
API month happened.
API month, baby. It is Asian Heritage Month. I was wondering if you could talk about a little bit how those different aspects of your like whole identity interact. Because I think that's just the question. How do you navigate the interactions and intersections of those identity pieces?
Yeah.
Another one for the cough reel.
Coughing break. Okay. Sorry, editing team. So I think a lot of Asians in the Midwest can feel and understand this, but a lot of times you grow up in a school system where maybe there's only one or two other Asian kids at your school, if any, and then people will probably constantly ask if you're related, even if you've never met them.
For sure.
But I've had the chance these past 2 years to attend both like the VO1, which is a Vietnamese regional conference, and then MASU, which is a Midwest Asian regional conference. And just spending like 3 days in a conference with like so many other Asian students from other schools, like it makes you realize like we all had this experience, but we all had it together, even if we're in different states and different cities. And that's like so cool to me. And so when you ask like, where does Asian identity kind of come together in all of these things? What was your question again? I was going somewhere with this.
How the different aspects of your identity interact and interplay with each other, and like how you navigate that.
Mm-hmm. I had an answer and then I blanked on it.
All good.
I'm trying to think.
I have a follow-up question that could come off of the conference thing, and then we maybe swing back to that one potentially.
Yeah.
I love that you've been able to go and attend these things where you can experience like community with other Asian folks and like from that Midwest perspective. As we try to like, because I think we're both involved in it here in Indy, try to like foster a more cohesive local AAPI community. As a young person, what would you like to see more of in our like diasporic community here in Indianapolis? What is something that you're like, we need to be doing this that we're not doing?
I think I need to see more support for Asian creatives in the arts and performing, because for some reason there's some very odd stereotypes that Asians are only good at like one type of job.
Sure. And
then when you're in a creative field, like why is the first question I get not what do I like to do and why do I like to do it? It's always like, are your parents okay with this? Like, why does it matter? My dad loves that I can take photos. Like, but it doesn't matter whether they support or not. It's why does that question become the first thing that comes to your mind?
Exactly.
Why is it not what I'm interested in and what I'm passionate about? And the first thing you ask is, do other people approve of me?
Right.
And so I think if we see more Asian people like in the arts and in the creative space and we put extra spotlight on that, I think we can fight back against some of the stereotypes that like even Asians that are in like the standard stereotypical like medical law field.
Yeah.
If you take time to get to know and understand that people are complex and layered, creative people are in every single field and major.
For sure.
Every single major. Even if that's not what they end up going into, there's parts of their job that they let that creativity come into. And because of how we stereotype our community, like we're not going to get to see that. And so I think I was kind of talking about the conference because I got to see a lot of like performers from other schools, and they were combining like traditional Vietnamese, like parents by night, Paris by night, music that I kind of complained about my mom putting on when I was younger.
Sure.
But now when I hear it, I almost like start crying. Like all the dishes and things where I'm like, I wish we had like burgers instead of this.
Yeah.
And then now when I eat something like spinach soup and I hear like simple Vietnamese music, like I get so like emotional.
Yeah. For sure.
Because it's my childhood and I'm finally turning around and picking it up and letting it be a part of myself again.
Yeah.
So seeing performers that are combining like hip hop and like fan dancing and like traditional Vietnamese culture with like modern dance and performance, that's so cool and inspiring to me. And one of my dreams is to pursue drag, both like as a drag king and drag queen.
For sure.
And so when I see these things, I think about like, how can I incorporate that culture in as I'm learning to like dance and perform, bring that heritage in, and then also create something new. That's a part of how culture grows and develops.
For sure. 100%. And I think that segues perfectly back into this identity piece of like, as a queer and trans person, also being Asian, Vietnamese specifically, and from the Midwest, no less, and trying to figure out how does this all come together? And like, how do I do that? And I love this idea of being like, I'm going to be drag king and queen over here, living fully as all of the aspects of myself. And that's like you stepping into this full embrasure of all aspects of your identity. For people that might be watching this right now, young folks specifically, who happen to hit the different intersecting communities, identities that you might share, who are like, I really appreciate the confidence. We talked about confidence earlier. You talked about that. The confidence and the way that you kind of approach and talk about this topic, especially from your own personal perspective. What would you share with them as they try to navigate not only their identities, but finding community within the spaces that operate in the Midwest?
Yeah, it can be so hard to find community, but at times, like, community can find you, but also you have to take a little bit of initiative and put yourself in these spaces, especially in a culture that's striving to take diversity out of spaces. You kind of have to get the ball rolling yourself. So be active in your local, if you're a student, be active in your local Asian communities. Come to other cultures clubs like Black Student Union, Latino Student Union. We have a lot of intersectional issues where we are not in each other's spaces getting to know each other. And then that creates, what's the word? Like intersectional like conflict and things.
Sure.
It's like, we need to be also showing up for each other too.
Yep.
So go to other student orgs, invite them to your student org too, because we get into the habit where we have diversity organizations and like cultural organizations, but we stay in our own bubbles. Like we only stay around other East Asians. We only stay at other Southeast Asians. And I'm going to call that out right now. You need to start supporting like your brothers and sisters and siblings in this community.
Sounds like something we've talked about a lot on the show here.
Yes. And also like, for young queer Asian people, because a lot of times in Asian culture, it's depending on where you are and what generation and all of these different things, right? It can feel like queerness and Asianness don't mix sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always accepted by the culture. But I hope that people do a bit of research on their history and look into history, because another thing that I learned from going to the VO1 conference was like, there have been queer Vietnamese people around for years, and before colonization and before books and things were removed and burned from places, there's evidence of Vietnamese nobles, and there's evidence of like nobles that cross-dressed or were queer or took a same-sex partner and all of these things. And that's the records of the nobility. And if you understand history, you know that like only the nobility had access to books and things to be written down in records. Mm-hmm. So if that's only the nobility, think about the common people and how many common people were queer before all of these things were erased. And so these identities come together and they've always been here. And so like take pride in your culture, find those spaces, do your research. Yeah.
Do your research. Like the thing is we find ourselves in a time right now where history is being quote unquote erased. Or attempted to be erased. And that is really scary. And it sucks. And I think the thing that I think about is like we, for a long time, passed down narrative and story and tradition orally. And that's how we built community. That's how we affirmed each other, was through the storytelling. And that's how we kept record, because there just wasn't record keeping in like a mass way that we have now. And we've lost a little bit of that. And I think that when we want to like tap into our history, in addition to reading and learning about and watching whatever you can, the other part of it is like tapping into the community aspect. Like the VO1 conference, it's like you were able to learn through other folks who have attained some of that knowledge. And like, I think when we get into our silos, that's where we then limit the amount of knowledge that we can gain, and a lot of context that we can have about our fuller understanding of our community, because we just stick to our silo. So I appreciate you sharing that. I think that's a great piece of advice. One more piece of advice, and then I got one last question for you. You're also a young entrepreneur. We were talking before we got on here about filing LLCs and business bank accounts. I love that you've not been afraid to like ask for help in our groups offline. What's one piece of advice you have for the young entrepreneur out there who is trying to figure it out right now?
Use your resources. Like a lot of times you don't know how to do something, then there's probably a resource at your school that's already there. Or don't be scared to ask people. Even if it's a title that someone has, like executive or manager or producer or director, like those things, they sound very scary, but they were once a scared student. And probably because they didn't have access to all the technology and information we have now, like they probably had to figure out a lot themselves too. And the great thing about like being a student is, like, somebody told me in the industry was like, in the industry, you never know if someone's trying to just get a connection out of you and leave.
Sure.
But students, it's like the only thing we have to gain is knowledge. And so like use this time to like learn and ask, and don't be scared. Like they probably have someone, any executive that you're scared of has somebody that they're scared of too.
Yeah.
And so just open up the door and be honest. Be like, hey, I'm a student. I love your work and what you do, and I want to learn from you. Would you like to meet for coffee or meet for lunch or something? And talk to them, and don't just talk with the mindset of like, I need a job, right?
Sure.
If you ask for a job, you're going to get advice. And if you ask for advice, you're going to find the steps to get you where you need to go.
Right.
And so just be open and honest, and don't be scared. Like release some of those fears of failure, because you fail and then it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Like everything's going to be okay.
Well, like you said earlier, the worst thing they can say is no. And you're still in the same position that you're in. However, you also have now experienced, quote unquote, that failure, because you got that no. And like we can now hopefully apply that lesson to the next time we're going to do whatever. And it's just like the one no can never be the deterrent, because it really only takes the one yes to get you where you want to go. You mentioned Rebecca Robinson, like affirming you in your artwork as an artist, like not the thing, the catalyst, but one of that you remember to like, and can reference as to be like, that was someone who helped me feel like I could do this stuff. And it only really takes that one person to fuel you, to affirm you in that way, to do some great stuff. So Hang, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you back. I feel like there's still a ton of stuff that we could talk about. And for folks out there listening and watching right now who want to catch up on all of the things that we've discussed so far, on all of the work that you do, how do they follow you? How do they find you? How do they support you as we get ready to get out of here?
Yeah, obviously, come check out my platforms on like YouTube, Instagram. That's where I share all of my favorite parts of the city, my art, my dance. I put everything out on here because it's all a part of me. I know that's not niching down, but I love what I do, and I want to share all of that. And it's going to be a drag summer.
It's going to be a drag summer. I'm here for it.
It's going to be a drag summer, and we're going to do a lot more learning. And then also I've been making a lot of like handmade things and art and stickers with the help of Pineberry paper to sell at markets. And so if you want a piece of my art from my hands to yours, like it's a piece of my heart and the things I love, definitely come chat with me at markets. I do live drawings too. So that's a way I kind of help people capture their memories of an event, and then sit and chat. And if you have questions about like artistry or like creative field or anything you want to ask, like come get a drawing, sit and chat with me for 5 minutes. And I want to help other people as much as possible. So ask me anything. I don't know everything, but I can do my best to help.
For sure. 100%. We'll have everything about you and everything that you do linked in the show notes. And just like you said for the advice, just ask. Don't be afraid to ask. Let's let go of some of that fear and let's build incredible community together. Hang, I really appreciate you coming through. I actually have one more question. Favorite Spider-Man?
Miles Morales.
Okay.
I love Miles Morales.
You understood the assignment with that question. And with that, we're going to wrap it up. New episodes of this show every Tuesday on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. ConversationPiecePod.com for the archives, for merch, and for the open door. Make sure you check that out. That's how Hang came on the show for the first time. And while we're sitting here doing the graduated full episode now. Other than that, we just had really cool events. Also, I'm going to shout out the Honey Bear Shop. The Honey Bear, am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, Honey Bear.
Honey Bear Shop. If you're at Macau or if you're at the market, the AANHPI market, you saw the new updated look. So make sure you get out there. Again, ask questions, get a drawing, have a good time, and build community. With that being said, shout out to John Overton and Popular Rapture on the mics, Mike Lee and Mike Lee Productions on the cameras. Shout out to Madeline McKinnon and Frida's Flowers for this piece, for sponsoring or giving their flowers segment. Shout out to Pattern and the Studs for the beautiful space. Shout out to Hang Doan for being an amazing guest. Shout out to me for being an okay host. And that's about it. This has been Conversation Piece. We'll see y'all soon.